Hey everyone, hope you're all doing well today. In this video, I want to talk to you all about my favorite current weapon. We aren't just talking PvP either, this thing's a beast in both PvE and PvP. We're talking about Rufus's Fury, which is a strand AR you can pick up from the new raid Root of Nightmares. It drops on the 3rd and 4th encounters, which are the final 2 encounters, and as with all of the recent raid weapons, if you get 5 red borders, you can craft this thing and make it any role you want with some enhanced perks. This is one of the few weapons where I have multiple crafted versions because it is just that good. Even more exciting, if you do the master raid and complete the challenge for the week, you can get the Adept version of whatever gun is in rotation for that week. And if your luck is anything like mine is, you weren't even able to craft this thing until the Adept version came around. I'm not even kidding, I didn't get a single random red border drop of this weapon. I had to buy one each week from the chest. Anyways, moving on from that rant, the raid Adept weapons used to be more trouble than they were worth, but with the recent update, you can now partially craft these weapons and enhance the final 2 column perks. On top of that, you can switch around the barrel and the magazine options to whatever you like. That means all you need to pray for to the RNG gods are the 3rd and 4th column perks, as well as the masterwork. And while that's still a decent bit of RNG, it's significantly better than needing luck for the first 2 columns too. Add in the fact that you can use Adept mods and these weapons become super beefy. Now, before I get into the way I personally feel about the weapon and the roles I enjoy, I'm going to go over the base stats and do some comparisons. The TLDR of it all is that this AR is an absolute stat monster. On top of the base stats being overall superior to every other 720 RPM AR, it also has several good perks in both the 3rd and 4th columns for both PvE and PvP. When it comes to range, it is far and away above any other AR in its archetype, while still maintaining some solid stability. Crate's the only one that kinda comes close to its overall range and stability, but it's still a good bit less in the range department, and on top of that, Rufus has more aim assist and far superior perks in the other columns. Sweet Sorrow, the other craftable 720, while being a fun weapon, just doesn't compete with Rufus. You can use Killing Wind, which will boost its range to be slightly above Rufus, but that requires a kill, and Rufus has far better stability with better 4th column perks as well. The only 720 that really has any type of stat advantage over Rufus in PvP is Quicksilver with its maxed out stability, but Perpetual Motion can help a lot with that, and stability isn't as important as range, especially on mouse and keyboard, and Quicksilver's range is pretty poor compared to Rufus, so I still prefer Rufus, especially when you consider the 4th column perks. That being said, Quicksilver is a beast in PvE, and it's still really solid in PvP, and its exotic perk does a shit ton of damage in PvE, so I do really enjoy using that. Now, with those quick comparisons out of the way, let's talk about the roles you can get. In the first column, I went with Hammerforge just to get that range bonus without compromising the stability. There's plenty of solid options here, but for me, increasing the range is just my top priority. Full bore would be solid too, especially on M&K where stability is just not as big of a deal. I believe Arrowhead would be really useful on controller, but on mouse and keyboard, it's not hard to control the recoil at all. But like I said, a lot of solid options. It's best to mess around with them and see what feels best to you, especially depending on what input you're using. For the second column, Ricochet rounds is almost always my go-to. On top of the range and stability boost, on a weapon like Rufus where you have constant stream of bullets, you can apply some nice pressure in PvP on maps with tight corridors. If I was going for more of a PvE build, I go for armor piercing for the boost in damage on shields plus the extra range. I don't really think increased reload speed or increased mag size are that important on a weapon like Rufus. It already has so many bullets per mag, and it reloads quickly. It just seems like overkill to me, especially if you're already running something like rewind rounds. God, it's so hard to say that. Rewind rounds. Extended mag could be beneficial for target lock, but that's really all I could think of. In that third column, you have a lot of good perks. Demolitionist, rewind rounds, and reconstruction are all solid perks, especially in PvE. I tend to prefer rewind rounds for PvE because I feel like I take advantage of it the most. While reconstruction is good, the gun already has so many bullets and it reloads pretty quickly, so I don't really care for it much personally. Again, like extended mag, reconstruction could be nice for target lock purposes in PvE, but I still would get more use out of rewind rounds. If you're leaning into more of a grenade build, you can never go wrong with a good old Demolitionist with Adrenaline Junkie roll. Then you have Perpetual Motion and Moving Target, which are both great in PvP. You can't really go wrong with either, but I felt like Perpetual Motion was better on mouse and keyboard, while Moving Target felt more useful on controller. Honestly, Perpetual Motion is just an insane perk in general. It's almost always active and gives you a free 20 stat boost in its ability, handling, and reload speed. I really enjoy running it with a sniper so I can pull out quickly to finish off any body shots. Moving on to the final column, you, once again, have quite a few solid options here. For lighter PvE activities where ads are pretty squishy, you can't go wrong with Frenzy, Paracausal Affinity, Hatchling, or Adrenaline Junkie. Really just depends on what build you're going for. They all provide pretty solid boosts. If you're running something where the ads are a little tankier and maybe more stationary, Target Lock can be pretty solid too. That being said, I personally don't love Target Lock in PvE, or PvP for that matter, but we'll get into that later. I find it's way too easy to miss a shot and break the lock, whether it be due to the enemy moving sporadically or another enemy flinching you. I'd rather just take the general buff that the other perks can give you. As for PvP, I'm very fond of Paracausal Affinity. It grants you an immediate boost in damage by 20% after getting a kill with anything that matches the weapon's affinity. That means that since this is a dark weapon, any stasis or strand kill will proc this, and that includes the weapon itself. It lasts for 6 seconds or 7 if you have it enhanced, and it makes stringing kills so easy, especially in 6v6 variants. The weapon goes from requiring 10 bullets at minimum for a kill to 9 or 8 depending on the resilience. Now that might not sound like much, but it makes a difference. Not to mention it just makes taking down overshields, health regen perks, and supers easier. Another great thing about Paracausal is that it acts similar to Rampage in that you can switch weapons and the perk will still be procced when you switch back to it, as long as it's still within that 6 to 7 time window of when you got the kill. This is a huge plus in my book because other perks that can do this only last around 5 seconds. Moving on, we got Tap the Trigger, which is also very solid, but I think that shines more so on controller. Some people like Harmony, but it's not really my thing, at least not for this AR. I see a lot of people recommend target lock on this thing for PvP, but I think it's pretty bad, honestly. I believe a lot of people see how good target lock is on Immortal and just assume it's good for everything, but due to how target lock procs, it just doesn't really help much with an AR that has a mag size of 55. It doesn't lower the potential TTK at all unless they have like an overshield or resilience buff, and you have to land every shot for it to proc anyways. It might help with killing someone in their super, but that's fairly situational and it's pretty easy to miss while trying to spray down someone in their super. Paracausal is not only more forgiving, but it also just provides better consistent benefits. Adrenaline Junkie can be pretty good in PvP, especially if you're using a build that gets consistent grenade kills. Getting that grenade kill will give you a 33.5% buff, and that does lower the time to kill over Paracausal. But I personally don't like relying on a grenade kill. As far as gun kills, you'd have to get 3 gun kills all within 5 seconds of each other to match that buff that Paracausal gives you. On top of that, Paracausal lasts a couple more seconds, which matters a lot in PvP, especially in lower man activities like trials where you might have to heal before engaging your next target. So that kind of wraps up the perks for Rufus. It's also worth noting that the origin trait provides some small boost to handling and reload speed if you have other Reed of Nightmare weapons on. It also grants some increased damage on Tormentors, Lucent Hive, and in PvP against supers. It's not a lot, but it's still a nice bonus. With all of that being said, stats aren't the end all be all. I've used many weapons that had worse stats than another weapon, but for whatever reason, it just felt better. I'm happy to say that this is not the case for Rufus. Rufus handles like a charm, and I love using this thing. If it wasn't for trace rifles, I would say this is the definition of a beam. It melts in both PvE and PvP, and is one of the few weapons I've really felt the desire to grind for. Hell, I almost got it too. I literally just want this thing, but with ranged masterwork, and that would be my personal god roll. I have used several roles in both PvE and PvP, and these were the roles I enjoyed the most. Moving target with tap felt really nice on controller, but perpetual with Paracausal was my go-to on mouse and keyboard. I've had a lot of fun with that thing in both quick play and trials. In PvE, I've been rocking Rewind with Paracausal. I'd like to make another one with Demolitionist and Adrenaline Junkie, but my poor mats and Vault Space are already struggling, so not sure if that's going to happen anytime soon. Anyways, that's it for this video. I'm new to doing reviews like this, so let me know if you enjoyed it. If you're also enjoying the weapon, let me know and tell me what roles you've been enjoying on it. And if you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you left a like. That's the best indicator for me to know if I did a good job, so it means a lot to me if you do that. And without further ado, hope you guys have a good rest of your day. And yeah, I'll see you all later, friends. Bye.
Left, my friend. Guardian, you alone. Be brave. Opponent revived. Opponent revived. Your ally is back in the fight. Seconds left. You are all that's left. This is your fight to win. Your ally is back in the fight. You are back. make them run. You alone will bring victory. Enemy team has fallen. You took them. Your ally
Jesus
got
Christ.